From a really young age, we're taught to take people at their word, right? But what if I told you that you can almost never trust the surface level of what people say? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking a concept that's literally going to change how you interact with the world. We're talking about the reality that human language is, well, mostly driven by survival, ego, and fear. That surface level personality you see, it's not really them, it's just their armor. So by diving into Friedrich Nietzsche's 18 powerful psychological truths, we're going to learn the exact clues that reveal what people are desperately trying to hide. Because the truth is, we all leave this little trail of breadcrumbs in our everyday habits, our passing jokes, and even those sudden bursts of anger. And trust me, once you learn how to read these signs, you absolutely cannot unsee them. Nietzsche warned us not to confuse the mask with the actual person. And hey, he didn't actually mean this as an insult. The reality here is that people aren't usually hiding from you maliciously. They're actually hiding from themselves because, frankly, they're scared. It's like they're just actors in a play they didn't even write, wearing these masks shaped entirely by whatever happened to keep them safe in the past. To truly decode all this, we need a roadmap. So we're going to look at the surface-level illusion, figure out how to decode that survival mask, watch for exactly where it cracks, dig into the core childhood wounds, and finally wrap up with why compassion has to be our ultimate goal. All right, let's jump straight into part one, the surface-level illusion, or language as armor. Think of this as the outermost layer. It's where the smiles, those strong opinions, and the exact words people choose to use are really just a stitched-together performance meant to keep them safe. Like the person who seems super kind, they might actually just be terrified of rejection. Or the one who acts unshakably strong might be completely crumbling underneath, just praying nobody notices. So to peel back the onion of the human mind, we're going to take a three-step journey. First, we spot the persona. That's the performance they want you to see. Then we watch for the cracks. And those cracks, they ultimately lead us right down to the hidden truth, which is the deep emotional wound of the soul. Which brings us to section 2, decoding the survival mask, and specifically, the illusion of virtue. Look, everyone wears a mask to survive. We instinctively create this version of ourselves designed to be accepted by the herd. But how do we actually decode it? Well, pay close attention to what someone aggressively criticizes. This is actually one of Nietzsche's absolute sharpest insights, projection. When someone is constantly mocking arrogance or vanity in other people, they are very often deeply insecure about their own self-worth. It's a classic defense mechanism. We naturally tend to hate in others the exact things we're completely terrified to admit are inside ourselves. And this dynamic completely subverts our expectations. The person who's loudly proclaiming their purity, the one always correcting others and preaching from their high horse, they're often just masking a really deep, unfulfilled need for superiority. Nietzsche actually called this the will to power in disguise. Because genuine goodness, real virtue, it doesn't need a round of applause. It doesn't need an audience. So definitely be wary of excessive virtue. It's almost always a cover for something much darker. Behind that mask, though, inconsistencies start to pop up. Because here's the thing. People don't actually lie to you first. They lie to themselves. They'll rehearse lies like, I'm fine, or I don't care, so often that they genuinely start to believe them, just so they can function in a painful world. Watch out for silence, too. Dodging a specific topic, that reveals incredible vulnerability. Oh, and remember, if someone is constantly reminding you of their accomplishments, how smart they are, or their wealth, it's pretty much always an overcompensation for feeling like they fundamentally just aren't enough. So before we move any deeper into the psyche, I want you to try something. Stop listening to what people claim they want. Instead, ask yourself this one crucial question. What are they afraid of losing? Humans rarely act from pure desire. We usually act from a really deep, unconscious fear of loss. It might be the loss of status, the loss of love, or the loss of their fragile self-worth. But whatever it is, that underlying fear is exactly where the truth lives. Moving on to section 3, watching the mask crack and how the truth leaks out. Masks are definitely imperfect because the self isn't some stable, concrete thing. It's a performance. And the very second that stitched-together role was threatened by reality, the truth inevitably starts to leak out. You've got to train yourself to slow down and really watch for these moments of tension. Maybe it's a sudden flash of discomfort when a core belief gets challenged, or a nervous laugh that just doesn't match the heavy weight of the conversation. Quick subject changes, or even a sudden clenching of the jaw. These aren't random mistakes, guys. They are profound clues that physical discomfort is exactly where the real person begins. Notice the dynamic happening here. A massive, imposing exterior is so often just hiding a scared, vulnerable core. Extreme behavior in any direction, like exaggerated chronic confidence, is really just an attempt to drown out internal doubt. Deep guilt loves to hide behind false confidence. People who perform this absolute certainty, they're usually just terrified of being truly seen, and they're desperately trying to bury a version of themselves they profoundly regret. This idea applies perfectly to our modern, social media-driven world. When someone constantly curates their identity with that loud, look-at-me energy, posting perfect poses, or obsessively micromanaging the people around them to keep total control, it's really just a whisper of their terror of inner chaos. Because a person who truly knows and accepts themselves doesn't need to be constantly watched or validated. Let's take this even deeper and strip away that final layer. We're shifting from observing their behavioral cracks down into the hidden emotional origins of their pain. When someone presents a fierce, unyielding worldview to you, stop asking why they're saying it. Start asking, what broke them to make them believe it? Which leads us nicely into Section 4, the core childhood wound, where behavior is actually biography. You see, Nietzsche believed that literally nobody speaks from pure logic. We all love to think we're rational creatures, right? Arguing facts, making perfectly logical decisions. But underneath every single rational argument is a deep, unhealed emotional wound. People love to justify their defensive shields with logic, but they're really just reenacting traumatic childhood roles. For example, if someone ruthlessly mocks vulnerability, they were probably punished for making mistakes early in life. If they constantly create drama and chase attention, they were likely ignored as a kid and are now terrified of being invisible. Behavior isn't just action, it's biography. And here is one of the absolute hardest truths to admit. People often attack not because they hate, but because they admire something they feel they can never be. When someone bitterly tears down a free, successful, or confident person, they're often in immense pain themselves. It's basically a confession of envy. It's this desperate desire for an abandoned part of themselves, something they secretly believe they just aren't allowed to have. These repetitive behavioral patterns are a direct confession. People don't always know how to verbalize what hurts, but they will show you over and over again through their actions. Think about it. Ghosting when relationships start to get a little too close, overworking to avoid sitting in silence, or keeping things surface level by flirting with everyone while genuinely connecting with no one. If you tune into the patterns instead of the words, you're going to hear their deepest fears long before they ever speak them out loud. And finally, Section 5, compassion over judgment, which is our ultimate goal here. Nietzsche didn't want you to decode people so you could control them or manipulate them or gain some kind of leverage. This is absolutely not a tactic for power. The true power of these 18 truths is that once you can see the fear behind the bully, the guilt hiding behind the arrogance, and the pain behind that perfectly curated performance, you become unshakable. You replace harsh judgment with deep, genuine empathy. You start to realize that most people are suffering quietly behind their polished smiles, and you become someone who sees clearly, and yet still chooses grace. Because decoding others ultimately turns into a mirror that reflects your own childhood scripts, I want to leave you with this final thought to help you analyze your own patterns. Pretty much everything we judge in others is something we carry ourselves, and everything we admire is something we long to embody. So, as you go out into the world and start reading the cracks in the masks of those around you, ask yourself, which mask are you